During the lunch hour, I would seek the consent.
Before you start speaking to it.
Madame la
Is
Présidente.
there anyone who does not have Mr. Shampoo's amendment? Nope. Okay. Now, Mr. Shampoo, I'm sorry.
Merci, Madame.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I didn't mean to rush you. I wanted to save work for everyone. I would like to seek a unanimous consent to withdraw the amendment that I previously proposed.
Thank you. Then I will ask if there's unanimous consent for Mr. Shampoo to withdraw his amendment. Is there anybody on the floor opposing this? No, and Mr. Upal seems happy as well. So I think we're then there is unanimous consent, Mr. Shampoo, and we will withdraw your motion.
I would offer a friendly amendment that the word annually be added after the monetary amount.
I think Mr. Nader mentioned that was taken for granted in all of the subsequent motions on amendments on this particular subject. So annually is already there. Thank you, Ms. Thomas, for ensuring that it is so. Now, any further debate? If there's no further discussion, I would ask the clerk to call the amendment, please. Call the vote.
Ms. Fry, Ms. Thomas has her hand up.
Ms. Thomas?
Sure. Madam Chair, as a matter of procedure, in order for the amendment to reflect the intention of the mover, an amendment is needed. And so I would ask that you would accept my amendment to add the word annually to the end.
Ms. Thomas, I think when Mr. Nader read the motion, he added annually to it.
Madam Chair.
So, but if you would like us to vote on your amendment, we will so. Ms. Thomas has an amendment that adds annually to the end of 1012. And please, can we call the vote, clerk, on the amendment?
Ms. Fry, Ms. Thomas, sorry, has her hand raised.
Yes, Ms. Thomas.
Goals in an appropriate fashion. In other words, if the government's goal is to, as was initially described, get money from web giants, then go get the money from web giants and make it clear that everything else will be left alone to continue the innovation and investment that have defined Canada's creative sector in the past decade. End quote. So, Madam Chair, and to the rest of the members of this I would contend that it is due diligence for this committee to consider a financial threshold in terms of who is in and who is out, who is captured, who is not. And so I would ask us to give consideration to my colleague's amendment that has been granted here today, and that we would support our digital first creators by ensuring them that they will not be captured. And in fact, this legislation will only go after large streaming companies.
Thank you very much, Ms. Thomas. And is there anyone who wishes to speak? If not, I will call the question on Ms. Thomas's sub-amendment with regard to the word annually. Before yes,
Madame
go
la
ahead.
Présidente,
Can we vote?
on a consenti à l'unanimité à ce changement.
We said unanimously that we agreed with the vote that was taken on the first version of this by consent.
I am sorry, the actual 102, which is what we're dealing with right now, Ms. I know that Mr. Nader read annually into it and that we were going to vote on it. Ms. Thomas wanted this to be very clear that she wanted it to be a sub-amendment and not taken into the main motion as Mr. Nader had read it. Now, as far as I'm concerned, Mr. Nader reading it in meant that we did not have the desire to have a sub-amendment, or there was no need for a sub-amendment. But now we have a sub-amendment on the floor and we need to vote on it. I'm sorry.
But Madam Chair, it's Chris. I think we can just pass it on consent. I don't think there's any objection in the room around the table.
Does the room want to pass the sub-amendment on consent?
Agreed. honest entrepreneur you could exploit, and it undermines the whole principle of the bill. But what kind of powers would the CRTC have in circumstances like that?
Are you asking this question of Mr. Ripley, Mr. Julian?
Yes, I am.
Yes, Mr. Ripley, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the question, Mr. Julian. So in the instance that you describe, the primary tool of the CRTC would likely be to go and have its order turned into a court order. So it has that ability to go to a court and have basically a decision that it's made, or a contravention of basically become a court order, and then it becomes a case of, depending on the jurisdiction in question, extraterritorial issues around application of Canadian law. But that is the primary mechanism that it would have available to it to seek to enforce its decision on a company that was arguing it's not subject to Canadian jurisdiction because they're based in another country, for example.
Thank you. Does that answer your question, Mr. Julian?
It does. Thank you very much, Mr. Ripley. And my comment is this: if you have a bad player that is sent.
Thank you very much. Mr. Perkins.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A question on officials as a follow-up to the line of questioning. Does the CRTC not have
Through the chair, please, Mr. Perkins.
Yes.
If you question the officials, through the chair, thank you. Go ahead.
I thought I did say that at the beginning. I said, Madam Chair, thank you, through you. Does the CRTC not have the power to compel financial statements from any company that's operating in this service in Canada?
Mr. Perkins.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the question, Mr. Perkins. So, indeed, one of the changes the bill proposes is making sure that the CRTC does have information gathering powers, so that it could go to a service operating in whole or in part in Canada and ask for certain information from them, and such as their Canadian revenues. I had understood Mr. Julian's question to be, what happens if that company basically refuses to play ball, so to speak, with the CRTC, claiming that they weren't subject to jurisdiction. So that was how I had understood Mr. Julian's question. But you are right that yes, the CRTC does have those powers to ask for this kind of information.
Thank you, Mr. Perkins. And Mr.